Hello and welcome. My name is Mwata Pari Agbera, and this is West African Virtual Academy, a platform designed specifically to help you pass all your standardized exams and tests as a West African student. Disclaimer: this is specifically for if you're a science student that is taking biology this year and you want to learn, or you're coming to be a science student really soon and you want to get a head start, or you are coming to write WASSCE and you want to review old topics. If you are just taking integrated science, this won't really be the video for you because you're going to go deep into specific biology definitions and topics and things like that. So there'll be a different video on this channel for integrated science to be labeled integrated science. That's the one that you want to watch. So unless you're a biology student, I would leave right now. Okay, so now that we have just the biology students over here, let's go. Okay, so I've placed the notes over here if you guys want to follow along or write your own notes based on my notes. I also have my notes over here that I'm going to be using to read along and follow with us. Okay, so the first objective is, what is biology? Biology is the study of the form and function of living organisms and how they interact with each other and the environment. So an organism is just anything that lives. Later, we are going to reiterate on what makes it living and what makes it not living. But basically, just think of it as anything that lives. So the grass over here is an organism. We are organisms. The trees, the lions, the cats, everything is an organism. So we all live on this earth. And we can't just live by ourselves. We have to interact with other organisms because, if the grass doesn't grow, where will we get the food? So we interact with the grass. If we talk to other people, we are interacting with other people. If we go and look at the lions, or we see the monkeys, or we go and get fruit from the tree, we are interacting with other organisms. So we all have to interact. Biology is basically seeing how we interact and studying it and seeing how we can make it more beneficial for all parties involved. So that's biology. Biology examines the structure, function, growth, origin, evolution, and distribution of living things. Like I said, so how things grow, biology studies it. How we eat, how we reproduce, how we live, how we breathe, everything, all of that is studied by biology. It is often called the science of life because, we are studying life. We are studying how we all live and how we all do everything. So it's a study of life. So that is basically what biology is. Okay, so I said we are going to go back and see what is living and what is not living. So now that's a note on the screen right there. Okay, so a living thing is basically anything with life processes, right? So if it has life processes, if it grows, if it breathes, if it reproduces, if it moves, that makes it living. I have the definition of life processes on the next slide, but that's what makes something living. A non-living thing is something that does not have life processes. So it doesn't breathe, it doesn't eat, it doesn't drink, it doesn't move, it doesn't do anything, it doesn't do any of that things. So that makes it not living. Okay, so what I've written right here on the slide is that living things, they eat, they move, they breathe, they have offspring, they excrete, they react, they grow. That's what makes them living. And non-living things, they do not do any of those things. So I have pictures on the slide. We have a cat and we have a duck. So they move, they eat, they breathe, that kind of things. They are living things. On the other place, we have a brick, we have rocks, we have paper. They don't do any of those actions. So that makes it not living. Okay, so now we have the details of the life processes that I was talking about. So life processes are the 7 basic characteristics that distinguish living things from non-living things. So what actually distinguishes us from the bricks or from the wood? Why are we not the same thing? Well, nutrition, respiration, movement, excretion, reproduction, sensitivity, irritability, and growth. If I were you, I would write these things down because they are very important to understand. These are just the things that living things do that non-living things do not do. So on the next slide, we have nutrition. This is the process by which living organisms make or obtain food and utilize it for growth and maintenance. What that basically means is we eat. Nutrition is just eating. Every organism has different ways in which they get food, but nutrition is just we are getting the food and we are putting it into our bodies in a way that it will nourish us and to give us nutrition. That's what nutrition is. And nutrition uses food. Food is the object that we use to nourify ourselves. That's the thing that we use to give us energy and things like that. So food is the material from which organisms obtain the energy required to sustain life through respiration and carry out all the other processes of life. Now, we all know if you're hungry, if we don't do anything, we just sit there waiting for food. Food just nourishes us. If we are hungry, we don't have energy, we can't carry out all the other functions that we are meant to do. So food is a way that we can get back our energy through eating or through getting food in the various ways that other organisms get their food from. Okay, so now we have our types of nutrition. We have two main types of nutrition, that's autotrophic nutrition and heterotrophic nutrition. Autotrophic nutrition is when living organisms synthesize or manufacture their food using simple organic substances from nature. So I think we all know photosynthesis or kind of remember it from JHS. Well, basically, photosynthesis is when plants use the sunlight and carbon dioxide to make their own food to give themselves energy and the things that they use to just grow as a plant. So basically, they're not using other organisms to make their own food, or they're not going somewhere or getting something to make their food. They make it their own selves by using things that are found in nature. So that is autotrophic nutrition. And heterotrophic nutrition, that's when organisms obtain their food from other living organisms. That's when us, that's like humans, we can't make our own food. We have to go and get food from somewhere. For example, when a giraffe eats leaves from the tree, it doesn't create the leaves, it goes to get the leaves and it eats the leaves. Or when a lion kills an animal, the lion goes out to go and find the animal and then they eat it. Or how humans, we go and find food and we eat. That is heterotrophic. We can't make the food, like we can't create it from how plants create food from sunlight. We have to go and get food from organisms that are already there. So that's the difference between autotrophic and heterotrophic nutrition. Okay, so now we're going to go deeper into autotrophic nutrition and look at the two main ways of autotrophic nutrition. So we have photosynthetic, that's like photosynthesis is when the organisms make their own food using energy from sunlight. So how green plants, they get the sunlight and they create their own food source. And we have chemosynthetic. So this one is not really popular, you'll not hear it a lot, but I'm just putting it here so you have just information on it, because information is never a bad thing. These are organisms that make food using energy from inorganic chemicals. So the example is sulfur bacteria, or it's called thiobacteria, and they use hydrogen sulfide to synthesize organic food. You'll not be asked about this, but it's another kind of photosynthesis. Well, it's not photosynthesis, but it's another kind of synthesizing food, but they use other things other than photosynthesis. Okay, so the next thing is heterotrophic nutrition. We said heterotrophic nutrition, that's the one that we have to go and get our own food, like a lion eating meat or a giraffe eating leaves or plants. We don't create our own food. So we have multiple kinds of it. We have holozoic nutrition. That's when living organisms take in solid, already made food. So it's like a monkey eating a banana, or us eating fruit, or something like that. It's already made. We are not come to do anything to it. We'll just take it and we'll eat it straight like that. That is holozoic nutrition. Okay, so the next main kind of heterotrophic nutrition is we have saprophytic nutrition. This is when the living organism feeds on dead organic material. That's not humans or not really animals. It's more of fungi and some bacteria. They release enzymes to digest dead organic matter, and that's how they get their energy. The next kind is parasitic nutrition. This is when the living organism, that's normally a parasite, it depends on another living organism for food. For example, do you remember back in JHS when we did a topic about how like ticks go on dogs, or parasites, they use a host for their energy and for their everything. That's parasitic nutrition. So like how a tick goes on a dog or something like that. That's what parasitic nutrition is. So that's the last main kind of heterotrophic nutrition. So holozoic nutrition also has three main categories under it, or something like that. So we have the carnivores. The carnivores are meat eaters. They feed on other animals for meat. So that's the lions and the sharks and the dogs and the things like that. And we have herbivores. That is when they eat only plants. So that's when like you have giraffes eating on the leaves only, or the cows eating only the grass, or goats and grasshoppers and things like that. Then we have omnivores. Omnivores are organisms that feed on both plants and animals. So like humans like this, you can eat plants and you can also eat animals. So that's what the difference between carnivores, herbivores and omnivores. I would also write this thing down because a lot of people ask about the difference between carnivores, omnivores and herbivores. It's easy to remember. Just remember carnivores hunt, herbivores eat herbs, so that's like plants, and omnivores do both. Okay, so just so that we are clear on nutrition, we're going to go back and remember the main differences between autotrophic and heterotrophic nutrition. Just for a refresher, autotrophic nutrition is when organisms synthesize their own food, so like photosynthesis and just plants making their own food. And heterotrophic is when the organisms obtain food from the environment, so like when lions eat other animals, or when humans eat other plants and things like that. So the main differences: we have autotrophic is found in plants because they use photosynthesis and things like that. It involves the intake of simple substances. They use sunlight, they use carbon dioxide. Those are simple compared to like when we eat meat or we eat bananas and things like that. The chemical makeup of those is more complicated than like just normal sunlight or carbon dioxide. So that's one difference. Then we have they manufacture their own food. Just to remember, if we think of autotrophic, think of photosynthesis. Then you can find all these differences. They manufacture their own food. So like photosynthesis requires sunlight, like photosynthesis. It involves an anabolic process. So an anabolic process, we will go over that in the next lecture. But just think of photosynthesis. It's a process where they just manufacture their own food. The next lecture we will go deeper into the main definition of that. But just remember photosynthesis for that. Then the heterotrophic nutrition is found in animals. It involves intake of complex substances, that's like bananas or meat. The chemical makeup is more complicated than just CO2 or something like that. They do not manufacture their own food because we as humans cannot just make food from sunlight or just from the air like that. We have to go and look for things to make our own food so that it's already found in the environment and we just have to find it. We do not require sunlight to make our own food. So we can just make food from the gas. We don't need sunlight. So that's one difference. And it involves the catabolic process. Again, in the next lecture, we'll go over that. So those are the main differences between autotrophic and heterotrophic. Make sure to be taking notes too. Make sure to be taking notes. Okay, so the next thing we're going to cover is respiration. Okay, so the next life process that we're going to be looking at is respiration. Over here, it says that respiration is a sum total of chemical reactions which result in the breakdown of food substances to release energy with or without the use of oxygen, and it involves gaseous exchange. So basically, respiration is kind of just the gaseous exchange within the body or within the cell to make energy for the cell, because respiration is about energy. But we have two kinds of respiration. We have external respiration, that's just like normal breathing, how humans breathe in oxygen, breathe out carbon dioxide. That's external respiration. Then we have internal respiration, that's cellular respiration, that's the gaseous exchange within the cell itself. Okay, so under internal respiration, also called cellular respiration, we have two kinds. We have aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration is with the use of oxygen. So this is the breakdown of glucose in living cells to produce energy in the presence of oxygen. The byproducts of the reaction are water and carbon dioxide. So that is when we use oxygen to form gaseous exchange. Then anaerobic respiration is without oxygen. So this occurs when glucose is broken down to its energy in absence of oxygen. So in humans, muscle cells respire anaerobically and the byproduct is lactic acid. Basically, so our muscle cells like this, they don't use oxygen to respire, but they still respire and get their energy. Okay, so respiration has some formulas, or basically just the chemical makeup of how it occurs in the body or in plants or in cells. So these are three formulas that you should remember or you should write down somewhere so that you can remember them. The first one is aerobic respiration in plants. We have C6H12O6 plus 6O2 will give you 6CO2 plus 6H2O plus ATP. That basically just means glucose plus oxygen will give you carbon dioxide, water, and energy. That's just the chemical makeup, and that's a balanced equation. That's aerobic respiration in plants. Okay, so the next formula is anaerobic respiration in plants, or basically alcohol fermentation. And we have C6H12O6 will give you 2CH3, CH2, OH plus 2 CO2 plus ATP. So just saying that glucose will give you ethanol and of course carbon dioxide and energy. And then the last formula we have is anaerobic respiration in animals, or for acid fermentation, lactic acid fermentation. And we have C6H12O6 will give you C3H6O3 plus ATP. So basically glucose will give you lactic acid. These are just some formulas for respiration that you might be asked or you might have to remember. Okay, so the next topic we're going to be looking at is reproduction. So reproduction is the process by which living organisms give rise to new individuals of their own kind. So basically it's just producing offspring. That's what reproduction means. And this ensures the continual existence of the species of the organism. So basically when species reproduce, they just have offspring so that their species does not die out. For example, if a lion gives birth to 4 more lion cubs, then they'll continue the generation of lions and the lions will not go extinct. That's how reproduction works. The two main kinds of reproduction are sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. We're going to cover asexual first because it's the simplest one. Okay, I know the slide says adequate reproduction, but it's supposed to be asexual reproduction. Okay, so asexual reproduction involves only one plant or individual to produce a new organism. So this process involves no fertilization or exchange of genetic material, and the offspring are identical to the parent, for example, plants such as potatoes or onions. So a lot of species or plants, they need another plant or another one of their same species to fertilize them. For example, how humans, it takes two humans to produce an offspring, right? But for asexual reproduction, it doesn't need another plant to fertilize. They can just have offspring by their own selves, and that's what differentiates it. Okay, so the next kind of reproduction is sexual reproduction, and this involves the fusion of male and female gametes or sex cells to form single cell called a zygote, which develops into new organism. The offspring displays some characteristics of both parents. Sexual reproduction ensures high degree of variation among organisms. So humans sexually reproduce. They sexually reproduce. So you need two humans to create a baby. You can't just have one human making a baby. It doesn't work like that. And so that's just a process. The male and the female sex cells, they fuse together and form a zygote, and then that's what happens. A lot of other animals do that. So like lions, like tigers, like monkeys, they need two to make an organism. And also in this kind of reproduction, what's it called? The offspring, they vary in appearance, so they don't all look the same. For example, if you look at a family with like 5 children, or not, the children will look similar, but they don't look the same. But for like a plant like potato or onion, if you look at the plants, they all look exactly the same. So that's the difference between asexual and sexual reproduction. Okay, so under sexual reproduction, we have conjugation and we have fertilization. So conjugation involves gametes of similar shape and size, and fertilization involves gametes of different mating types. That's just the difference over there. But I'm going to go and more clarify the difference. So types of fertilization, we have external fertilization and internal fertilization. So external fertilization is just, if you look at the word, you can find the meaning. So external means outside, so you know it's going to be outside of the parent's body. And internal means inside. Just look at in and ex. So in is inside, so you know it's going to be inside of the parent's body. So external fertilization is reproduction in which fertilization takes place outside the parent's body. So frogs do that. They do the fertilization takes place outside of the parent's body. Then we have internal fertilization. That is when reproduction in the fertilization takes place inside the parent's body. So like humans, the fertilization process happens inside the body. It doesn't happen outside. And this type of fertilization is necessary for organisms that produce smaller number of sex cells. So humans or like birds. Okay, so there's advantages of internal fertilization and we have disadvantages of external fertilization. Okay, so for these advantages and disadvantages, there's a lot. So I'm just going to put it up there so that you guys can read it and you can figure out for yourselves. But I'm just going to be telling you the main differences. So internal fertilization happens inside of the body. So the fertilized eggs cannot be eaten because you can't go and enter the body and remove the eggs. It doesn't work like that. So that's one advantage. The embryo is protected from shock by amniotic fluid. So if you took reproduction or if you took integrated science in JHS and remember the reproduction topic, you know that they have an amniotic fluid that covers the body or the body of the offspring so that it doesn't get hurt while it is still in the producing process. And the zygote obtains oxygen from the mother because it's inside of the body, so the mother can give it oxygen and nutrients and things like that. The eggs are protected. Back to the whole thing, it's protected because it's inside of the body, and the chances of fertilization is higher because again it is protected. So the main difference is that it is protected inside of the body. Just remember that. So there's a mistake on the slide over here. That's for a different slide, but I'm just going to read the advantages from my head. So the disadvantages of external fertilization, again, so they can be eaten by predators because it's not inside stationary holding something. The embryo is not protected from shock, so something can happen, it can just roll away or it can be broken easily like that because it's not protected by a mother. It's just opposites of the advantages. So the fertilized eggs are not protected and the chance of fertilization is very low because it's outside of the body. Okay, so key vocabulary that you want to know for reproduction: competition. That's the ability of living organisms to struggle for all necessity of life, to struggle in their environment, to survive in the environment. So it's like, for example, if we have a tree with bananas on it and we have many monkeys, right? The bananas are the food for the monkeys, but all the monkeys cannot eat from the same tree because there's a limited amount. So in order for the monkeys to be able to survive in that habitat, they have to compete for the bananas, if you understand. So it's more like The resources are limited on this earth for all the animals. So they have to compete to see who will get the resources so they can live. That's what competition basically is. And then we have adaptation. That's the ability of the organism to adjust to changes in environment for survival. So we all know that the world doesn't stay the same. Things change over time. So while things change over time, species also have to change over time so that they can continue living. So things can happen. Maybe the habitat can change or something, a natural disaster will happen. So it's up to the species to be able to adapt themselves so that they can survive with every adaptation that happens in the world. That's what adaptation is. And then we have lifespan. It's the period of existence of an organism. So from the day an organism is born to the day that it leaves this earth, that's what lifespan is. So basically just the whole life of an organism that is measured. That's what lifespan is. Finish all the harder life processes. These next life processes don't have that many things to remember, or they're not as hard to get. So we are going to the easy parts now. So we have movement. So movement is the change in position of the whole body or parts of the body from one place to another in search for food, shelter, mate, etc. Okay, so we all know what it means to move. To move is just like to do like this, or to do like this, or to do just to move your body somehow, some way, or to move I don't want to use the word move. So to change the position of an organism just any way. So if something in the organism changes position, like if the vines goes like this or the leaves does like this, that's a movement. Okay, so we have to remember this, the difference between locomotion and movement. So locomotion is when something gets up and moves somewhere, like it's coming up, it wants to go and do something, it wants to go and hunt, it wants to go and eat or something. But movement is just when a little part of it moves, like a plant can move. The leaves of a plant can move, the vines of a plant can move, but a plant cannot get up and go somewhere else. So a plant can move, cannot locomote, but the animal can get up, it can go somewhere and come back and go and do everything. That's locomotion, so remember that. So the next thing, locomotion is to move the whole body of the organism into a different place, and movement is the change of position of an organism. Okay, so we are done with movement, that's it. So the next slide is excretion. Excretion is the removal of waste metabolic products from the body. So waste products such as carbon dioxide, ammonia, urea, etc. are poisonous and slows down chemical reactions if allowed to accumulate. So that means, so when you eat or when you produce things in your body, there's going to be toxic waste. The waste is thing that has to leave your body, because if it stays in your body, it can cause problems or complications. So like humans, we secrete urine, like we excrete urine. That's our excretory product. Some other organisms excrete urea, or they excrete ammonia, carbon dioxide, things like that. If the organism wants to keep that inside their body, they will get sick or something will happen to the organism. So we have to excrete it. That's just a process of excretion, to remove all the toxic things so that the body can continue to function properly and healthily. And the next one, sensitivity or irritability. So it is a process which living things respond to stimuli. Okay, so the singular of stimuli is stimulus. Stimuli is a plural. A stimulus is any environmental factor that triggers an action. So examples of stimulus are sound, heat, touch. Okay, so a stimulus is just anything that happens to an organism that causes it to do something. So like, let's say if you touch an animal, it does like this, or it moves. That's stimulus. Or let's say the room is too hot and then the animal is like sweating or something. That's stimulus. Or it's too cold and the animal is shivering. That's an example of stimulus. Or if it's too loud and then somebody their ears will start pinning them. That's an example of stimulus. So stimulus is just any environmental factor that can trigger something or can cause a reaction from an organism. The examples of stimulus are sound, heat, touch, chemicals, taste, smell, temperature, just things like that. So living things are sensitive to changes in the internal and external environment. So basically, when something happens in your environment, like if it's very, very loud outside, I bet you respond or you react some way. Or if you taste something that's very bad, you want to spit it out, you want to remove it, you want to just remove it from your whole body. That's an example of stimulus. So just a stimulus is just anything that causes you to react. And the plural of stimulus is stimuli, and then the process of responding to stimulus, or the fact that you respond to stimulus, is called sensitivity or irritability. Then we have growth. Growth is an irreversible or permanent change in measurable features such as size, weight, and length of an organism. So we all know what it means to grow, right? Humans grow every day. When you are small, you start off like this, then become big. Have you ever seen somebody that when they're a baby they're this size, and when they are 32 they are still that same size? I don't think I've ever seen some before. So growth is just the process of the changes in the body that causes what did I even say, Cra? So it is just a change in the body that causes an increase in height, weight, or size, and things like that. So for example, a plant starts off as a little small seed like this, and slowly but surely it will grow to be a bigger plant. Like the trees outside like this, they didn't start off as big trees like that. They were smaller trees. So that's just the process of growth. So most animals grow until they reach maturity. So like humans like this, we grow, but when we reach like an age like 30, when we reach an older age, we don't grow that much. Sometimes we can grow a little bit, but we don't grow as fast, and sometimes you just stop growing completely. Like, have you ever seen your grandmother grow? It doesn't happen. So that's just what growth is. And so the process of growth is that cells increase and in number by dividing, a process called mitosis. So mitosis is another topic in another subtopic, but it's just the process by which cells they divide in order to increase. So it will start off as one, it'll cut in half, it becomes two. And to it'll cut in half, it becomes four. So it's just the process of just the growing of cells, and that's what causes the body to grow. And so usually plants they grow until the end of their lifespan. So trees will always grow like early, or they'll grow a branch, or the point is plants will normally continue growing until the end of their lifespan, but humans can stop growing once they reach a certain age or maturity. That's the point of the last sentence. So we have reached the end of life processes. I know that right now it seems like a lot of things I've just told you, but it's actually a really, really easy topic once you get the hang of it. Once you just remember those 7 processes and just the basics of them, you'll be completely fine. So now there are just some few things that are part of the textbook that don't really fit in, but it's something that you need to know. So I'm just going to tell you guys right now. Okay, so the first thing, the difference between plants and animals. Okay, so plants are stationary. Like I said, they can move, but they do not locomote. So they can't move around. They cannot get up and move somewhere. Presence of cellulose cell wall. They have the cell wall in their cells. I think in JHS we did that, but if you didn't do that, just a refresher. The cellulose cell wall is something that is only in plant cells. Only plants have the cell wall. Animals have a cell membrane, but they do not have the cell wall. So that's why it's distinguishable to only plants. And then autotrophic mode of nutrition. If you remember back in the beginning of the video, we said the autotrophic mode of nutrition is when they make their own food. Those they can create food from like the sun and from inorganic substances. The next difference is that they undergo photosynthesis. Back to the nutrition, they can make their own food, and animals cannot do that. And the last one is they reserve food in the form of starch. That's just a fact. There's not really explanation. It's just the way that they keep food in their system. Okay, so animals, they are not stationary, so they can move around as they want. They can just get up and go. Like me right now, I can just get up and go somewhere. A plant cannot do that, but animals can do that. And there's no cellular cell wall. So they have a cell membrane, but they do not have a cell wall. So that's one difference. Heterotrophic mode of nutrition. So we cannot create food from inorganic substances. We have to go and just find food that's already in the environment. Chlorophyll not present. So we do not do photosynthesis. We cannot undergo photosynthesis. So we do not have chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is a green pigment that allows plants to undergo photosynthesis. So since we do not do photosynthesis, we do not have that. So that's why. The next one cannot undergo photosynthesis. So that just ties into each other. And that's when we reserve food in the form of glycogen. So glycogen is like our energy, it's like glucose. So that's just the way we reserve food. Okay, the next one is branches of biology. So there's a lot of branches of biology, but these are just some basic ones that were in the textbook. So I just said, let me add them inside. So the first branch of biology, or the first branch over here of biology, is botany, the study of plants. Then we have zoology, the study of animals. Microbiology is the study of microscopic organisms. Just remember small. So really, really small things that you can't see without a microscope. That's microbiology. And virology, the study of viruses. Bacteriology, this book, the study of bacteria. Mycology, the study of lungs. Parasitology, the study of parasites and parasitism. Physiology, that's the study of functions of organs and the parts of living organisms. Genetics is the study of genes and heredity. Histology, the study of cells and tissues. Anatomy, that's the study of form and function in plants, animals, and other organisms. Entomology, that's the study of insects. Embryology, the study of development of the embryo of an organism. And ecology, study of plants and animals relating with the environment. So you might not be able to, but this is just a small amount. There's like way more branches of biology. These are just a small amount that I found that can be useful just in case you get a random question that says, what is zoology or what is microbiology? So now you know. Then the last slide over here. Importance of biology. So biology is actually very important. Right now you might be saying, so this is why is it important? But it actually has a lot of importances that you'll continue to learn as you continue your journey as a science student. So the first one over here, it helps us to know and appreciate the complexity of living processes. So just looking at a tree like this, you might not believe that there's a lot of processes that the tree goes through. Like, would you think that the tree has nutrition and its moves and sensitivity and growth and all that thing? Without biology, we wouldn't even think that the tree has complex processes like that. You just think the tree is just there. He's just there, kaka, to just give us food. That's it. But once you learn biology, you can learn more about the tree and see how complex every living organism is. And it helps us to understand how diseases affect the body. Okay, so we once you understand biology well, you know the function of some of your organs like the lungs and the heart, the stomach, and things like that. So if you have a disease like bronchitis, you understand the lungs function. You know, okay, something is wrong over there. Or if something is wrong with your body, and you understand the function of the part of the body that's bothering you, you can really understand what is happening over there and why is it happening and things like that. So that's not important. It helps maintain a healthy ecology for humans, animals, and plants. Yes. So when you understand biology, you learn how to take care of yourself and the environment around you. So we know that we need to water plants. We know that we need to not be pouring rubbish outside and things like that. If we didn't know that, we'd just be doing whatever we want. And before we know it, the world has collapsed because we have removed everything from the world. But when we understand biology and things like that, we'll know not to do that. So we can keep our environment healthy and nice for us to continue living. It enables the use of forensics to trace and arrest errant members of society. So forensics is another branch of biology. It's more of a branch of science. But so forensics is the branch of science that they use in criminal justice. So when something happens to a person, forensics is what they can use to look at the body and see what happened, and they can really determine what really happened to that body. So once we know that, we can look at who did that, why they did that, and things like that, and we can get them and give them the justice that they deserve. So that's what forensics is. It's not really, I don't think it's going to show up in your exam, but just the more you know. It allows agriculturists to rear unique and specific brands of plants and animals. Okay, so agriculturists can breed animals to get breeds that they want specifically. So they do not just get random breeds. They can choose what they want to breed. And without biology, you cannot do that. So that's an example of biology, the importance of biology. It helps in creating solutions to the challenges many living organisms face. So every living organism will face challenges. Maybe you are sick, that's a challenge. Or there's not enough food, that's a challenge. But when you understand biology, you can know ways to get around it. For example, you take medicine or you find another source of food. Every living organism faces challenges, but when we understand biology, we will know how to avoid those challenges or to go around them. In the last one, it paves the way for inventions and discoveries to improve the quality of life. Like this phone that I'm holding right now. Like I'm holding a phone right here, right? Oh, look at me. Anyway, I'm holding a phone right here. This is an invention. And if we didn't understand science, how would they know how to make this? Or even the drink that you're drinking, planets, the drink, it is not just from the nature. They didn't just go and look for the river and find planet river. Somebody invented that drink using science and other resources. So biology paves the way for that. And that is the end of our slide. Okay, so this brings us to the end of our lesson. Thank you so much for sticking around and watching until the end. So I know this seems like a lot of information, but we're not even halfway through the topic. I've divided this topic into 3 lectures. This is lecture 1, and I'll upload lecture 2 and lecture 3 very soon, so you can watch them and you can learn, and you're going to ace all the exams that you take with this topic, I promise you. Make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the next 2 lectures that I'm going to post under this topic. And please like if you like the video. If you didn't like it, then you did, it's okay. And please comment more topics that you want to see or questions that you have on this topic. I offer free virtual tutoring sessions for both WASSCE and BEC. So if you need a free session, DM me at Montaparagbera on Instagram. And if you want more study tips and more lessons or more sessions, look at wa.virtual on Instagram. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next lecture.